because I may not be able to to realize that anybody had up their hand um, physically in their video. So there's a digital way to raise your hand. You are free to ask questions anytime during the session. Just raise your hand and I will call you and you can ask your question. Also, everyone needs to remain on mute during the session. Um, I hope I don't have anything happening in my background. I have a dog, and sometimes the dog decides to bark at people. So if you hear a dog barking, it's probably my dog, and that's okay. You just have to endure a dog in the background barking sometimes. Right. So as you all know, I'm Ryan. I am Ryan Harper. I am 9-time national champion, not 10-time. But hey, I'm glad that Gabriela said 10 times because I'm looking for number 10. So the grand game of chess is what we're going to be looking at today. Introduction to chess. Now I know that some of you all may already know how to play chess to some extent, and some of you may be absolutely new to chess. So we're gonna start off by looking at how the pieces move. Um, I'm not gonna give you all a history about chess, but I can say that there's an argument as to whether or not chess started in India or China. There's been a bunch of stuff online about which one, where did it start in India or did it start in China? China claims chess started there. India claims chess started there. And while they argue about where chess started, the number one nation during all that time has been Russia. So I don't know why they're arguing about it. Anyway, so how the pieces move. So this is the starting position of a chess game. Everyone is seeing the screen, I hope, in which we have these major pieces in the back. These are the backline pieces, and then we have our frontline pieces that are pawns. The pawns are like the front soldiers in an army. You know, when you have an army, you have the soldiers that are new to the army, and I mean, it's sad to say the front soldiers are the ones that usually don't last very long in the game. But that's how it is. That's how it is. It's like a game of war. That's how it is with the pawns. Those are the front soldiers, and those pawns are all with 1 point each. Behind the pawns, of course, are the bigger soldiers and the king. The king is a piece that you must protect. And therefore, while you are protecting your own king, you are trying to capture, or not capture, you're trying to checkmate your opponent's king. So this is the piece that you must protect. And for your opponent, that is the piece that you must try to trap, the king. So there's a point system in a chess game, right? So as I said, pawns are with 1 point. These pieces at the end, these are called rooks. They are with 5 points each. After the rooks, there are knights. These are with 3 points each. And after the knights, there are bishops. Bishops are with also 3 points each. And then there is a queen right next to the king with 9 points. And the king is not really denoted any points because the king is the piece that you need to protect. It is kind of strange to some extent that the king doesn't have any point value because the king can also capture pieces. It is also a bit strange that the queen has the largest number of points because back in the days when there were kings and queens that were running countries, and since chess is a very old game, the king was always the most powerful figure, and the queen, of course, was also very powerful, but the king was also the most powerful figure. We're neither here nor there about that. So the queen is the most powerful piece, which means that this is the most attacking piece on the board. The queen is the most attacking piece. So let us look now at how these pieces move. And I'm going to start with the piece that tends to give people the most problem to remember. And that piece is called the knight. The knight is a very strange piece. I like to start off with the knight because I sometimes think that it's best to start off with the one that is hardest to remember, the knight. Now, when I say a knight, you must be thinking about a person who is riding a horse with a spear. That's basically what a knight is. And that's why the knight has this L-shaped movement that the knight makes. It's as if the knight is jumping over something, because if there is a piece on these squares, the knight can jump over those pieces and end up on this square. So knights move weird. They move in an L shape, two squares up, one square to the right, two squares up, one square to the left, or two squares down, one square to the right, or two squares down, one square to the left, or two squares to the right, one square up or down, or two squares to the left, one square up or down. So you will see that these are the squares that that knight can move to. It is also important to recognize that the squares that the knight can move to are always a different color from the square that the knight is on at the point in time. So the knight is on a white square, but all the squares that the knight can move to are dark squares. When that knight moves to a dark square, then from that point, the knight is going to be able to move to a white square. Notice all the squares follow the same pattern. Two squares up, one square to the right or left. Now, what I want you all to picture in your mind, and this is something you have to picture in your brain. Imagine that these kings are not on the board. Just imagine in your mind that these are not here. If you take this board and you turn this board 90 degrees, we are still going to see the exact same pattern on the board. You take that 90 degrees and turn another 90 degrees, the pattern on the board is going to look exactly the same. If you take that another 90 degrees, it's still going to be exactly the same. What I'm trying to explain for you all is that the movements of two squares up, one square to the right, and the movement of two squares to the right, one square up, are nearly exactly the same. Just at the board, when you switch the board, it just looks different, but they're actually the same exact movements. It's the same L movement, it just sounds different. I should let the people, Christian Duncan, you don't need a chessboard for the session, okay? Because you have to focus on the screen. You don't need a chessboard, focus on the screen in front of you. So I hope everybody understands that so far. Does anybody have any questions? I see some people speaking in the chat. I'm not sure. If you have a question, you need to raise your hand first because I'm focusing on the screen, so I can't focus on the chat at the same time. Okay, Rashad, you have a question? Let me hear your question.
I just want to see that if you move the knight to the black.
Yes, I'm gonna move the knight to the black for you.
Are you supposed to put it at the white after the black?
Pardon?
Are you supposed to put the knight in the black and then the white?
Well, what I'm saying is that when the knight is on a white square and the knight moves, the knight will move onto a square that is a dark square.
Oh, okay, I understand now.
And then after that, when it's on a dark square, when it's gonna move again, it's gonna move into a white square. Understand?
Yes.
Okay, now that is the knight. I don't know how long you're going to remember that for, but I hope you can remember. Now let us go to the bishop. The bishop is a very easy piece. You know? Now everybody should know what is a bishop. You know, in a church there's a bishop, or you know that there's the grand bishop. So the bishop moves very easy. The bishop moves diagonally, any direction. So this bishop can go all the way down to this square. The bishop can go all the way down to this square. Bishop can go all the way across here, and the bishop can come all the way back across here. Notice something very important about the bishop. That bishop that is on a white square will never move onto a dark square because they move diagonally. It's as if that bishop is kind of like moving through those corners. You know, you see those corners? It's like the bishop is moving through the corner. So although it looks like it's passing over the black, it's moving through the corner and remains on the white squares. You'll understand that? Bishop always stays on white. I need to put a pawn on this board so I could actually move the pieces. Pawn here. Right, so the bishop moves diagonally. So for example, this bishop can go to this square diagonally. After that, that bishop can go to this square. So when the black makes a move, the bishop can then go to this square. I want you all to notice that the bishop on this square, although the bishop can only move on white squares, this bishop cannot move in one move down to this square. It will take two moves to get there. One move, then it's back still into play, then another move. But notice the bishop always stays on that color. So if I take this position and I put another bishop on the board, on the dark square, this bishop will never go on a white square, and this bishop will never go on a dark square because bishops move diagonally. Very easy. And it can move any number of squares. The bishop can move one square. The bishop can move, but that's not one square, that's two squares. But the bishop can move one square, or the bishop can move any number of squares once it remains in the line that the bishop is already in. Everybody understand that? Yes?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
All right. So that's the bishop. Let us go on now to the rook. So rooks, they are very easy as well. Rooks move up, down, left, or right, any number of squares. So for example, of course, these positions, I should put a pawn on them so I can move the rook. So for example, this rook can move up to this square. This rook can move down to this square. The rook can move across in this direction. The rook can move across in this direction. A rook does not move like a bishop. So this rook cannot do this. That is how a bishop moves. Rooks move up, down, left, and right. Up, down, left, and right, any number of squares. One square at a time, three squares at a time, four squares at a time. Very easy. Very easy piece to remember. Do you all think you're going to remember this? Rhonda, what's that look on your face? Rhonda, you have a look on your face like, what? What are you talking about? You think you're going to remember this?
No.
You're saying yes. I don't even believe you. But I hope so. So, let us look at the queen. And you'll see all those arrows I put there already. The queen is a very powerful piece in chess. The queen can move like a rook, or the queen can move like a bishop. That's why this queen is so powerful. Because if you move the queen like a rook, the queen can move up, down, left, and right. But if you move the queen like a bishop as well, the queen can also move diagonally like a bishop. And this is a very important feature of the queen, because remember, when we were looking at the bishop, when we were looking at those bishops, remember, you had one bishop that can only move on the dark squares, and we had one bishop that can only move on the white squares, right? But when you were looking at the rooks, rooks can move on any color because they move up, down, left, and right. This rook can move onto a white square. The rook could also move onto a dark square because they're moving up, down, left, and right. So it means that when we move the queen, when that queen moves, the queen can move onto a dark square from a white square and then move like a bishop. Let me show you an example of what I mean. Put a pawn here. So for example, this queen can move onto a dark square like a rook. But then after the queen moves onto this dark square, in another move, the queen can move like a bishop on the dark squares. But then the queen can also move like a rook onto the white squares. And then after that, the queen can move like a bishop on the white squares. So this is why the queen is so powerful, because that queen can move diagonally on the white squares or on the dark squares. And it can also move like a rook. So you know that when the queen starts moving into your territory, you have to be very, very careful about what that queen is attacking, because the queen is a very powerful piece, attacking in all sorts of different directions. I hope you all remember the queen. So let us look at the king. So the king only moves one square at a time in any direction. Doesn't sound very powerful, does it? You know, for being a king, you can only move one square at a time in any direction. So for example, this king can move up, the king can move down diagonally, the king can move to the left one square at a time, but the king can only move one square at a time in any direction. So let us look at some pawns and kings. This was supposed to be pawns and kings. Where are the pawns and kings? Oh, there are the pawns and kings. Right. So here we're going to understand how the pawns move. Pawns only move in one direction. Notice that when we spoke about all the other pieces, they could have moved forward, they could have moved backward in their different forms. But pawns can only move forward. So the white pawns are going this way. They're all going in this direction. Drawing all those arrows to show you which direction the pawns are moving in. White pawns are going in this direction, and the black pawns are coming in this direction. Pawns cannot move backwards. They can only move forward. But all the pieces I showed you just a while ago, the same way they move, is the same way they capture. The rook moves up, down, left, and right, and that is the same way the rook would capture the opponent. But pawns are a little bit different. Pawns move forward, but they capture diagonally forward. So, for example, if this pawn goes to this pawn moves forward, and this pawn moves forward, this pawn can capture this pawn. That's just an example. Now, this is also something that many people don't remember very easily. Each pawn is like a person. And this is important to remember because sometimes when people are playing chess and they capture their opponent, they say eat. And I'm sure that none of us in here eat people. We don't eat people. So we don't say eat, we say capture. So if you're playing chess with anybody and they say, yeah, eat your pawn, you tell them, no. You don't eat the pawn, you capture the pawn. Each of these pawns is an individual. And each of those individuals can move forward 2 squares on their first move. But after that, they can only move forward 1 square at a time. So this pawn can move forward 2 squares on its first move. But it doesn't have to move 2 squares because it can also move 1 square if it wants. But after that pawn has moved forward 1 square, he cannot move 2 squares anymore. Only on his first move can he move 2 squares forward. If he does not do that, then he cannot do it anymore. Each pawn can do that. So this pawn can move 2 squares forward. This pawn can move 2 squares forward, so can black's pawns. All of these pawns can move 2 squares forward on their first move. That is something that you must remember. So if white plays this pawn forward 2 moves, and then black plays this pawn forward 2 moves, this move by black would be considered a bad move because pawns capture diagonally 1 square at a time. So this pawn can capture black's pawn, just like this. Pawn just occupies the same square where the pawn was, and now that pawn, black's pawn, is gone. And now white has 1 pawn more than black. So that would be a bad move. Now black can play this pawn forward. White can play another move. And now black can play this pawn forward. This pawn, now when black plays this pawn forward, this pawn is attacking white's pawn. But now it's white's turn to play. White's pawn can capture black's pawn. But now it is black's turn to play. Black pawn can capture white pawn. So there we have the concept of protection. This pawn on e6, that's e6, is protecting this pawn on d5 so that when white captures, black captures and gets back the pawn. So let me ask you a question. I think I'm going to ask this question to Rondell because Rondell is doing something else. Rondell, you listening to me?
Yeah.
You listening to me now?
Yes.
If I take $1 out of my pockets and I give it to you, and you go in your book bag and take a different dollar out of your book bag and give it to me, how much money do you have?
$1.
Pardon?
$1.
$1, exactly. What I'm trying to tell you is that if white captures black's pawn, white wins 1 point. Let's pretend 1 point is $1. But now it's black still in the play. When black captures white's pawn, black got back $1. That's 1 for 1. Understand? That is an exchange. And therefore, white has not lost anything and black has not lost anything because all it did was exchange a point. Just like how I exchanged a dollar. No, I took my crumpled up dollar and I gave it to you. And you took your nice crispy dollar and gave it to me. But you still have a dollar. And you can still buy something with my crumpled up dollar. Right? So these are examples on how the pieces move. Now I know for some of you, remembering how all these pieces move is not the easiest thing. And what I wanted to suggest to you all, in order to remember how these pieces move, is you need to maybe create an account on one of these popular websites where people can play chess, and all of them have things that you can do that help you remember how to play chess. So I just thought I would just show you all one. I'm not going to actually go through the whole process, but I'm going to show you all one, so so that you know what I'm speaking about. So for example, there is a site called Lichess. Now if I go into Lichess and I go to learn and I click on chess basics, you will see that there is this part here where you can learn how all the pieces move. The rook, the bishop, the queen, the king, the knight, the pawn. And all you have to do is you just click on one. And I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm just showing you one briefly. And it will show you how the piece moves. And then you just make the move. So for instance, your rook moves like this, and you capture the star. Very easy. The rook moves like this, and you capture the star. And then you capture the next star. So I'm just showing you all that there are websites like this, and I like this one, where you can go and you can practice how the pieces move very easily. You just go create an account and you just go to learn chess basics and do these exercises that are going to remind you on how all the pieces move. And then you go on and you do more exercises, because there are a lot of exercises on Lichess and on other sites that help you remember how the pieces move. So this is just one of the suggestions that I've for you all to try to remember how the pieces move. Okay, so going back here now. So we had our starting position. Now, in chess, when a game starts, you start with what they call the opening. This is the opening phase of a chess game. During the opening phase of a chess game, you must try your best to have control of the center. I wonder if anybody can think of a reason why it is important to have control of the center. Anybody? Anyone can think?
Yeah. Okay, so that is where most of the action takes place.
Yes, there is a lot of action that takes place.
Maybe so you can dominate the board so they can't get past.
Okay, that's not a bad piece of reasoning as well. So sometimes what I like to do is I like to give this example. I like to give an example. Rasha, do you have a question or an answer?
I also have an answer for why is it important.
What's your answer?
Maybe it's because that if you're playing, you can't move the king, because if you move the king, the other player will capture your king. So that's why it's important. You have to keep the king behind.
Well, you can move the king, but we haven't got to that part as yet. But yes, you can move the king in chess. The king can move one square at a time, so you can move the king. Right, so now this is a,
Where's the
you,
king would
you'll have to excuse me for my very lame drawing, but I like to use this drawing as a very nice example. So what I do is I imagine imagine this is army. This is the pink army. This is the pink army fighting here. And this is the red army fighting here. They're at war. It's the red army fighting the pink army. This guy is going to be fighting with this guy and this guy. And probably to some extent this guy. You know, this guy, the guys here in the center, they always have to be looking out for the other guys on the corner who decide to throw in a elbow. But these guys here on the end, this one, you only have to look out for this. You only have to look out for this person and this person. So, and this one here at the end, you only have to look out. You only have to look out for this person and this person. But the guys in the middle, they have to look out for more people. This guy could throw in something here. This one could throw in something here. This one could also throw in something across here as well too. So you could understand chess is a game of war. And these guys in the center have the most battles to fight because there are people coming from different corners, different sides. But the ones on the end have less people to worry about. So it basically shows that the person who controls the center, right? If you control it, then you most likely have control of the game because a lot of action can take place in the center. And that's why sometimes when you get into playing chess more, you will realize that sometimes people like to lock the center. Like put the pawns in the center in a way where there can be no action in the center so that they can focus on a side rather than focus on the center. So because the center is so important, it is often suggested that your first move be a pawn move where your pawn has already started to try to take control of center squares. Now, black may do the same thing too. Black may say, well, all right, I want to take control of some center squares too. Then white might decide to bring out this knight. Now this knight, remember how knights move? 2 squares up, 1 square to the left. So what is that knight doing? Do you all see that this knight is attacking that one? No, black is not going to give away his nice center pawn to white. Black is going to say, no, 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 I need to protect my pawn. So black is going to bring out his knight and protect that pawn. Now the knight is not going to capture that pawn because a knight is 3 points and a pawn is only with 1 point. If the white knight captures that pawn, then black's knight will capture white's knight. Now, black lost a pawn, but white lost a knight. So white does not capture that pawn. White brings out another piece. When this bishop comes out to this square, I want you to notice that that bishop, along with this pawn, they are both keeping an eye on that square, that center square. White is trying to say, you know what, that's my square. That square that is on your half of the board, that square belongs to me. It's mine, I want it. So we're fighting that. So both sides now are fighting for territory. Sparkle, you have a question?
Yes.
I'm listening.
Oh, okay. So for the knight, can it also be 1 square forward and 2 to the side?
Yes. No. I mean, you are free to realize that it doesn't actually make a difference. If I say 2 squares to the left, I mean to the right, and 1 square up, you can just as well look at it as 1 square up, 2 squares to the right. because it's the same move. Once you understand that is the same L. It's the same L, just that the L looks different. Same L. Understand? Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
So this knight is protecting this pawn. And this bishop is out here helping control the center. One of the things that you all must understand in chess, especially during the opening phase of the game, is that you must bring out your pieces towards the center. And then you must do something that is very special in a chess game. So I'm going to show you what this special move is. There is a special move in chess called castling. And that move is the only time when you will see this move. This is when the king moves 2 squares, 1, 2, and the rook comes across to this side, and the king looks like this. This is called castling. And castling is a move played to put the king into safety. See how nice and safe and snug that king looks there? Safe. You put your king into safety to make it difficult for your opponent to attack that king. Now, it is not impossible. It is just difficult to attack the king. And while the king is tucked away there in safety, you can then continue to proceed to try to take more control in the center. Bring out your pieces. These minor pieces here, these pieces need to be developed. They need to come out into the game. And then when they are out into the game, then you could start thinking about how to attack your opponent's king. Just as well as you must understand your opponent is also thinking about how to attack your king. So it is important to bring out your minor pieces. So after white castles, black does the same. Put his king into safety. The king moved 2 squares to the side, and then the rook moved over onto the side of the king. That is the castling. That is the castling move. And that's the only time a king is going to move 2 squares. Otherwise, the king only moves 1 square at a time. So white still needs to bring out these pieces. So knight to c3. Notice those pieces are coming out towards the center, not away from the center. They're coming out towards the center because you want to make sure that you are covering those center squares so that your opponent doesn't get a chance to easily take control of the center. Black will make some room to bring out his bishop. White can bring his bishop out to g5, and black can play this move, for example. Now, this bishop is attacking this knight. Do you think that black is afraid that the bishop would capture the knight? Let me see if anybody could answer that question. Is black worried that the bishop would capture that knight? Let me see what answers you'll give. Okay, I see Obina says yes, Rashad says yes. Anybody else? Let me see what your answers are. Rhonda says yes, black is worried. Gabriela says no. Elise says
No.
no.
Sir.
Wait, hold on. Ade says yes. Okay.
Sir.
Yes.
If the bishop captures that knight, the queen can attack that bishop.
Not the queen can attack. The queen will be already attacking the bishop, so the queen can capture the bishop. How much points is a bishop? Let me see if you remember. How much points is a bishop?
3 points.
How much points is a knight?
3 points as well.
So
3
if
points.
exactly, so if this bishop captures the knight, white would have captured 3 points. Yes? But then the queen captures the bishop, and black gets back 3 points. No idea, it's not 4, it's 3. Black gets back 3 points. That is 3 for 3. Yes? No, it is not a waste. It is not a waste. It is called an exchange. So, Rashad.
Yes.
If I take $3 out of my pocket and I give it to you, and you go in your book bag and I take out a crumple up $3 and I give it to you. You go in your book bag and take out a nice crispy $3 and you give it to me. How much money do you have?
0.
Oh, come on. I gave you $3. If I give you $3 from my pocket, and you go in your book bag and you take out $3 and you give that $3 to me, how much money do you have?
That was 0.
No, you don't have 0. You have $3 because I gave you $3. You had $3 in your book bag all the time. And I took $3 out of my pocket and I give it to you. So you have $6, right? But then you went in your book bag and you took the $3 out of your book bag and give it to me. So then you have $3. So then you have $3. Then you still have $3. All we did was exchange $3. You see that?
Can you give me another one like that so I could get it right?
That is an exchange of $3. Just as how this is an exchange of 3 points. The bishop captured 3 points. The queen captured 3 points. Both sides got 3 points. Nobody won anything. You all understand that? Everyone? You all understand? So in this position, black is not worried about the bishop capturing the knight. But I wonder if anybody can tell me what would happen if black moves that knight away out of the attack. Black says, no, 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 I'm not going to allow you to capture my knight. I'm going to move my knight. Can anybody tell me what white is going to play? See some hands are raised.
White is going to attack
No,
the
no, hold on.
queen.
If you have an answer, you should be raising your hand, by the way. I don't want any people just shouting out answers. But yes, well, but it is not that the bishop will attack the queen. The bishop is already attacking the queen. So Liam, what did the bishop do?
Bishop could take the queen or capture the queen.
Exactly. The bishop can capture the queen. How much points is the queen, Liam?
9 points.
And when the bishop captures the queen, can black capture the bishop?
Yes.
What can black play?
Black can move from knight to d8 to capture the bishop.
Exactly. So how much points did white capture?
3.
No, how much points is the queen?
9.
9.
So white captured 9 points, but black only captured 3 points. Black lost their most powerful piece for a bishop. So you understand that moving this knight would be a bad move by black because that will allow white to capture the bishop. You'll understand that? This bishop is pinning the knight to the queen. You know like how it is sometimes. You know like how sometimes you'll lose a button on your shirt and like, what am I gonna do with this button? And you go and get a pin, and you just use a pin for now until until somebody comes and sews on a new button. Has anybody ever done that? Sometimes you have to use a pin. That's the same. That's so the knight is holding, the bishop is holding that knight on that square in a pin. That knight can't move. I mean, you could move, but you should not move, because the bishop will capture the queen. So you all understand here what each side has done so far is each side has brought out their pieces into central positions, waiting to see now what the opponent is going to do. So when you start a chess game, I want you all to take a visual picture of this in your mind and try to aim for this type of position when you start a chess game. You bring out your 2 knights, your 2 bishops, and you castle your king. You move your e pawn and your d pawn up. You move the e pawn up 1 square, and move the you move the e pawn up 2 squares, and move the d pawn up 1 square. Bring out your 2 knights, your 2 bishops, and castle your king. After you have done that, then you can proceed to try to do all sorts of other things in a chess game, like try to attack your opponent's king, try to win a piece, etc. But you must develop your pieces first, because if you don't develop your pieces, then your king can't castle. And if your king cannot castle, then your opponent will find ways to attack your king. Now I know that you all don't know how to, I know that some of you may not know how to attack a king. Some of you may not even know how to checkmate. And I'm pretty sure that those things are going to get covered in the session tomorrow, that I know none of you all are going to miss. So I don't know if anybody still has any more questions to ask. Does anyone have any questions? Did everybody understand how all the pieces move? I see a hand is up. Rashad, you have a question? Yes? No?
Yes.
Mhm.
If you're starting the game and you need 2 bishops and 2 knights, and if you're going to protect the king, how is the other player going? I'm pretty sure that, oh, I forgot what I was gonna say, but I will say something when it comes into my mind.
Okay. Sparkle, you have a question?
Yes, is it possible to go back to what you were saying about the pawns, the knights, and the bishops before castling?
So what I was saying about the pawns.
You were explaining what you're supposed to do before castling.
Oh, what I was saying is that at the start of a game, you should try to bring out your center points. So you start like e4, for example, e5. You bring out your knight. Not this move. Six. You bring out your bishops, and I was saying that you need to bring out after you've moved your pawn to e4 and the other pawn to d3. You are getting ready now to castle the king. Doesn't mean you have to castle it immediately, but you need to bring out your pieces towards the center. So for example, you castle, you bring out your knight towards the center, you bring out your bishop, and your opponent brings out their bishop towards the center. So I was saying that during the starting phase of a game, you must bring out your 2 knights, your 2 bishops, and castle the king. To bring out the bishops, you obviously have to push the pawns, because at the starting of a chess game, the pawns block the bishop. So that's why you start with the e pawn. You bring out a knight, Then you bring out the bishop. Now to bring out this bishop, you would need to move a pawn as well. My suggestion always is move the d pawn to bring out this bishop. The d pawn also protects this pawn, and you're making room for this bishop to get out into the game. Black should do the same. Then white castles the king to put the king into safety. Black may do the same, castle the king to put the king into safety. You bring out the knight towards the center. Black plays pawn to d6 because black also wants to bring their bishop out into the game. After bishop g5, bishop e6, and now both sides have brought out all of their pieces towards the center and into the game. And now they can focus on other actions of the game, like trying to attack the opponent's king, trying to gain more control in the center, which I would assume are things that will be covered in the session tomorrow. Today we were just covering how the pieces move and how one should try to start a chess game. Tomorrow I imagine that they are going to take this now a little bit further. Maybe you might do a reminder on how the pieces move, but they'll take this a little bit further and explain some tactical actions that can take place in a chess game. Angela, you have a question?
Yes. When you castle your king, get the opportunity to castle, is it effective, or you really do it when you have pawns in front of it? You know, like how you have it set up here, like you have 3 pawns and then you castle off. Suppose you have no pawns in front. Is it effective then? I don't know. You understand my question?
Okay, I understand your question. Well, no, it's a valid question. Now the thing is, if you don't have 3 pawns in front here for the king to castle, it means that probably you took too long to castle and you were doing other things with your pawns instead of castling. Because if you decide, remember you are playing a chess game. So if you decide at some point, if at some point you decided to move your pawns up the board and maybe your opponent captured them and you don't have pawns across there anymore, then it would not be a very safe option to castle on that side anymore. Most of the time, it would not be a safe option. And one might have to think about castling on this side instead. You can castle on either side.
Oh, okay. Okay, so the object is to make sure that you have like a defense or something around the king.
Yes, because
when you castle.
Yes, because the object of a chess game is to checkmate your opponent's king. So if your king is unsafe, then the chances of your king being checkmated are very high. If your king is not safe. Now it does not mean to say that you cannot castle if you have no pawns across there. You can. You can castle. But the question, of course, would be, should you castle there? Or should you try to castle on the other side? It all depends on the game. But if you are playing a game and you don't have any pawns on this side, it means that that something else was taking place in the game before you castled or tried to castle. And it probably also means that you were playing some bad moves that lost your pawns, that lost the defense on that king side. And now you have to think about how to keep your king safe.
Gotcha.
Okay, y'all. So that is the session there for today. Remember, this continues tomorrow. I hope everyone understood everything. I am going to turn you over to Gabriella to say anything that she needs to say before we close. Gabriella?
Yes, thank you, Ryan, so much for a very informative class. So as Ryan said, we continue tomorrow, same time, 5 p.m. We'll have a different coach. So another one of our top players from the country, so you can get to know a little bit about the different chess players that we have here. And we are going to be building on what we did today. So chess, so those of you who may be a little, not too comfortable just yet, don't worry about it. That's why we split it into 2 days, because the pieces just by itself takes a little while to take in. And then once you're comfortable with how the pieces move, then the rest, it's a little easier to build from that. So look out for an email. I'll send you the link for the site that Ryan showed you where you can practice the pieces, as well as a short little video that will help you to review the pieces, and you should get this recording in your email as well. So thank you so much for being here. See you tomorrow. Bye, everyone. Yes, and Ryan for the meantime. Bye. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Glad you enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Bye.